Hey guys, this is James.
And this is Denny from TeaDB, episode 71, and we have a special guest today. Tealet, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Ree, and I work with Elyse Peterson at Tealet. I'm the general manager at Tealet. I manage things in general.
Yeah,
so
she does a good job.
Good job. Yes, everyone needs a generalist.
Yeah, and yeah, my name is Elyse, and I am the herder of tea people. I think that's a good way to put
She's
it.
like a great connector of tea people, I would say.
A maven, tea maven.
It may be.
Yeah,
Cool.
That's a good term.
So, we have a special episode today, 71, because we're going to be doing a Nepali question mark tea. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to describe what...
Yeah, tea nomenclature.
Yeah. So, first off, let's just start talking a little bit about how we're going to brew this tea and begin the actual brewing process. And then we'll have a conversation about it. So, what do you guys... We're going to give it over to you guys.
So it's a high-altitude oolong. It's processed kind of with a light oxidation level. However, it's not dark enough, sort of, to be really solidly within the oolong category.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a white tea.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the tea has a lot of tips to it, and it's very kind of furry and fluffy. So one thing about Nepal is that it's not a traditional tea growing area, so it's not constrained by traditional rules of the game, like you must roll oolong this way or you must dry it this way. So they end up coming up with very interesting teas of very unique character. The problem with that is that as merchants we need to deal with how to fit them into traditional kind of categories, but then do we have to, and then what does the tea community want to do with that as well? So going with that, I'm brewing it kind of like a Taiwanese oolong, high altitude, and it's pretty fragrant, very high quality. So Gaiwan, kind of Gong Fu style-ish.
Cool.
So
Cool.
that's how we'll do it.
Yeah, let's go for it. And yeah, while we're doing that, I just looking at the leaves. Tiny leaves, very furry. It totally looks like a white tea on the sort of first glance. And yet it's we're gonna drink it like it's an oolong tea. So I'm totally excited and interested.
And technically, like Tealet was saying, it is an oolong tea. If we're able to just like follow the rules of oxidation, it's oxidized slightly, which would make it a oolong tea. And it just kind of shows you kind of the ambiguity in some of the tea nomenclature, where oolong is just like such a big range of categories if we're to follow it like 8 to 80% oxidation or whatever your definition is.
Yeah, I mean this is a problem that we are constantly facing. Enjoying.
Wow.
We work exclusively with small growers. Most of them are self-taught or working in new growing, non-traditional growing regions, different terroir, different... so this is often a problem that we find. We receive new teas from new growers and they don't fit inside a certain category, and usually we rely on third parties to vet all of these things, because if we're the merchants, we're the ones that people have to trust. We don't want to be the ones making up the evaluations, making up the names for things. So we actually have a pretty strong collaboration going on with Tony Gabley of World of Tea and Jason Walker of Walker Tea Reviews. All the new samples that come in, we send to them. Many of them we do live tastings via Google Hangouts.
Cool.
To get their feedback. And then, of course, here today, what we would like from you guys is your feedback on this particular tea. What should we call it? Right now, the grower has called this a lot White Forest Oolong, and before they had called it White Oolong, which we thought was not the appropriate name. Calling it a White Oolong, we think, is kind of confusing to the consumer. So we ended up calling it a Silver Oolong, which still wasn't effective enough, I think, for communicating what this tea actually is. I know Tony is working on a book right now, which I'm really excited for it to finish, where he's going to break down all these categories, all these styles of production. I mean, it should be a great reference for all of us to better understand the processing of tea.
Cool. Well, let's give it a shot and see what we think. Cheers.
Cheers.
I think flavor-wise, I get white tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say.
Yeah.
So it's interestingly enough, you can't taste that it's oxidized, or heavily. So what do you think the oxidation is? 30%?
Probably not even that.
Not
Yeah.
even that. We had a batch from autumn that was a lot more oxidized than this. The leaves edges were actually red. This particular batch, they didn't oxidize too much, but it was still rolled.
Mm-hmm.
So, because it was part of the process, we can't technically call it a white tea. So,
Yeah. And that's another thing with the type of lots of tea that we get in. It's really hard to get consistent quality control from every single lot. So it's almost as if every lot that comes to us, we have to give it a new name.
Yeah.
It's a brand new tea. You're never going to find the same tea from us every year. I mean, there's some certain standard teas, very traditional teas like Longjing, that you're not going to see much variability in the process.
Right.
Maybe in the quality of the leaf, but the processing itself is, you're going to see consistency year to year. But especially with these growers in Nepal, they're brand new to processing. And they're, for the most part, being kind of self-taught. There's some consultants there that is giving advice and feedback. But when we were there with the tea master, I mean, I don't know if you can call him a tea master, but the guy that leads the processing of this tea, we were asking him repeatedly, like, what is this processing style of tea called? And they were throwing words out that we didn't know meant, and they were just kind of words that they had made up to explain it. So it kind of makes it difficult whenever you're working with tea masters that don't really understand tea because they haven't been educated on the full range of teas.
Right. Although you could say that's a good thing in some sense. They don't have any
constraints.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we think that's really great for most of the growers that we work with, and it tends to make more interesting teas come out because they don't have walls, they don't have rules that confine them. It's interesting, something in the U.S. grown tea movement, we've done a lot of traveling to the tea farms and meeting with the growers, and also traveling with consultants that are doing this work. And Nigel Milliken is someone, very famous tea consultant. He travels the world working with tea growers everywhere.
Whoa, what is going on with Ree today?
Ree is out of it.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, Garland survived.
Good. Sorry, guys. We're just like Cousin Neville in here, just like tearing through everything in your house. Sorry.
It's totally okay. But so you were saying?
Okay, yeah. I did some traveling with Nigel to some tea gardens, and it was a really interesting experience to see him. He's so knowledgeable, and has been trained in the way of tea. Kind of from the commercial production side of it, and in that field, it's almost like it's one way or no way. If you don't do it this way, you're not going to get good tea. And you come here to the U.S. and you go to gardens where the guy got the tea plants from somebody and they have no idea what they're doing. They weren't trained by any book, and they're doing things completely outside of what the book says. And yet they're still making a really quality product, or they're defying the laws that used to be there. And to be there, like when Nigel is seeing this, is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Changes his perspective on what we thought tea was. And at the end of the day, what it's taught me is that tea is actually a very simple thing. It's just a plant, The trick, though, is to be in touch with your tea plant and to be in touch with the surroundings of your tea plant and bring that out. And you can make really great quality tea anywhere in the world as long as you stay true to that. And that's what we try to advocate to our grower network. And we go out with video cameras to document how they're doing it and then share that content with the other growers, and they all kind of learn from each other, get inspired from each other, and learn how to position their own tea within the world of tea so that they can be differentiated, but then still kind of have a united front of education and exposure to tea to the market.
Yeah. Well, I can't say that I have a strong opinion about how you should categorize this tea, but it strikes me as tasting like a white tea with a little hint of a little bit of kind of a vegetal green tea for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that it's an oolong because you sort of only see that top leaf. You do. Yeah, there are some other ones.
The plucking standard is 2 leaves in a bud.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the plucking standard on this batch.
And the oxidation of that previous batch was a lot darker. The leaves were a lot darker.
Interesting.
And the taste was more kind of radishy and musky with a white chocolate note.
Huh.
And then here we got more floral notes from this batch. I'm not sure if it's because it's a spring trait or because of how different the processing was. And they named it the same tea and sent it to us as the same tea, but they were completely different.
Yeah, and this presents the sort of point we talked about earlier about with younger farms that aren't established, the variability will be higher for sure. Yeah, well, it's beautiful tasting and it looks gorgeous and really great aroma. So
yeah, we know we fit into a different niche in the market. Our customers are definitely looking for teas as more of an educational experience, rather than I want to drink this tea every day and I want it to taste the same every day. It's like I want to learn about tea. I want to learn how the effect of the environment has on it or processing techniques, and we try to document and share as much information as possible so people can get an educational experience out of it.
Yeah, this is a great tea, I think, for anyone to drink. We always talk about accessibility for teas, and this isn't something it's hard to categorize, but not hard to enjoy. Put it that way. Yes. And people can get turned off by weirder flavors who are newer to tea, and we do talk about that on the show. But this is definitely not one of those teas. Yeah,
weird flavors. What are some of those?
We had one that tasted like peas.
Oh yeah,
we had that Korean tea.
Just a lot of more of the aged teas.
Yeah, that just are a little bit harder to place and can be a little bit funky. Something that I wouldn't want to drink on a daily basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean it's bad. We love trying those teas, as I'm sure you folks do too. But we do like to talk about when would you drink a tea like this and who would you introduce this tea to and things like that, because so much of tea culture, at least how I experience it on a daily basis, is about people and about experiences and about place and setting. So this is a great tea. I would love to drink this tea by itself alone almost any time of the day. Yeah, and really lovely, super, super great. So, cool. All right, should we call it right there?
Yeah.
So, James, if someone want to learn more about tea,
so they should come check us out on TeaDB. Also subscribe to our YouTube. We're releasing weekly videos, as well as lots of article content, and just all sorts of content. Some on white teas, oolongs, pu'er, whatever. And you guys should also go check out Tealet.
Yep, we're at Tealet.com, and we do a lot of social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, at Tealet Tea. And we're located in Las Vegas, so if you're ever passing through Las Vegas for a conference or to party with your friends, please come hang out with us. We'd love to have a tea party.
Tea friends.
Yeah, we'll be your tea friends. We found that we're actually kind of like the hangover cure for a lot of people that pass through town. They hang out at the Tealet house for the day and recover for another night of partying. But we're located downtown, and you can see us on Foursquare there, or at tealet.com/teahouse is where you can see our hours. And
we'll link to all the relevant stuff in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. Always love spreading the gospel of tea. And we'll have to have you guys on next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching, guys.